Joe, back in Ireland for a huge game at the weekend. How are the emotions heading into Saturday?
Yeah, I'm reasonably good at staying pretty balanced through the week. I definitely know that it will be emotional going back into the stadium and turning right instead of left, So I'm going to the away changing room. First time. I think, I don't know how many tests I had in the Aviva, but it must have been a lot. I think there were 77 tests in total, and so a lot of those were at home. So first time turning right, that will be a bit bizarre.
It also celebrates 150 years of Irish rugby. Does that make it even more interesting to you? Especially you were such a big part of the good days.
Well, the good days are now, aren't they? Like they're such a good side. They've been consistently very, very hard to beat. And last year, as incredibly disappointing as it was, that they were still a really high performing team. I think that game in the quarter final at Rugby World Cup was probably one of the most, I suppose, high performance games I've ever seen. The skill level, the closeness of the score, and it could definitely have gone either way. So that's the level I've been playing at, and for me, I really enjoyed my time both with Leinster and Ireland, and 10 years is a long time. 10 years is a career span for most players. Some of them were there before me and they're still there now, and Ken making his record cap tomorrow, surpassing Drico after catching up to him last week. His tenure, as Lou said, and supporting Lou said, for Ireland is incredible.
Since leaving Ireland in 2019, you've coached with the Blues, the All Blacks and now Australia. How have you changed as a coach in the last 5 years?
Probably still found it hard to say no. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been coaching those teams. So, the Blues happened because I happened to be having a coffee, and then Tana wanted to take Tana Umaga wanted to take a year out, and so I said, "Yep, I'll do 2 days a week," which I can't do 2 days a week. So it ended up to 7 days a week, and then there were the hiccups after I got called in with Mike Cron, funnily enough, to help with the All Blacks in the first test in the Irish series in 2022, and all the All Black coaching staff had COVID at the time, and we had a super week. It was kind of all care, no responsibility, because we tried as best we could, and I knew a lot of the players anyway. I knew the Blues guys really well, and I knew a lot of the others as well. So it was great to win that one, because then I got COVID and then I was gone for the next 2 weeks. We actually had Irish friends staying with us. They'd flown over, and we had to push them down the road to my brother's place, because we had to, my son as well, I'd brought him home with me, and so we'd been in the car and he tested positive as well on the Tuesday, and so we had to isolate, and my wife took our Irish friends down the road to my brother's place. So, it's been entangled, Irish rugby and my accidental coaching since I did finish, I suppose.
You started in March with Australia, won 6, lost 6 if I'm right, 18 debuts over the past maybe 9-10 months.
Yeah.
How have you found it?
Yeah, it's been interesting. First of all, I found it bizarre, because before going into Ireland, I'd coached Leinster for 3 years. Before going into the All Blacks, I'd coached a season at the Blues, doing the defence. So I knew a lot of the people. I was coming in absolutely cold to Australia in a bit of a deflated kind of environment, because of how things had finished the year before at the World Cup, and there was only a couple of staff left as well. So it was about getting a coaching staff and a performance staff and a medical staff. So, I didn't even know these people, and I was trying to put that together. And so we're still getting to know each other in the staff, let alone the players. But those 18 debutants, that was part of a longer term plan, and 6 out of 12 might not sound good, but in the context of 2 out of 13 the year before, it's still, even though some of the losses, we demonstrated how competitive we could be, whether it was 31-28 to the All Blacks, or even when we lost big to Argentina, we still played some really good stuff and led at half time. So one of the things about getting experience is knowing how to manage a whole game, and I think building the depth as well. One of the things is you've got to have a bench that's almost as strong as your starters, or as strong as your starters. And I look at the Irish bench, anyone who can afford to put Gary Ringrose on the bench has a luxury, because he's outstanding. I think Jack Crowley's done a great job so far, and those sort of players, to bring them on will definitely add value. And obviously Ken Healy, the most capped, soon to be the most capped Irish player of all time, that experience coming off the bench is pretty exciting for the future of Irish rugby.
For your guys, you've also given guys that were maybe out last year, under Eddie Jones, back in, Ikitau, Tom Wright, guys who have previously fallen out of favour, McWright, back in. So how important is it for you to try and get the newcomers and then the experience and blend? And there's a lot of guys there last week, it was actually 13 of the 23 or 14 under 30 caps. So a guy's coached yourself for a long time. How important is it to get those guys up to 30, 50 caps and then start to fully believe that they're right up there with the top teams?
Yeah, nothing really replaces experience, because experience, I think, keeps you calm in the moments you need to be calm. It helps the clarity of your decision making, because you've been there before. You understand, and whether you got it right the previous time or not, you will have learned from it. And so you've had more opportunities to learn as you gather that experience. And trying to get the balance right is really difficult. And I think those players you mentioned, Fraser McWright's been good for us. Lenny Ikitau has been, I thought he's outstanding against England in that game. Tom Wright was outstanding against Wales. So some of those guys have certainly proved their worth coming back into the side, and all 3 of those guys will hopefully inject themselves into the game tomorrow on Saturday.
Talk to us about Joseph Suaalii, Kingskill, Parramatta, Roosters at 17, Waratahs. When did you first hear about him or catch eyes about him and be like, geez, this boy's going to be good?
Well, it all happened well before I started. I had no intention of doing the job. A friend of mine rang me and said, would I help out? That's what it really came down to. I'd actually said no, that I wasn't interested. And so by the time I'd done that, I did watch him playing for the Roosters. And he's such a good athlete. But he's still orientating himself. There's lots of crossover, but there's definitely some differences. And those differences, having had Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he might not mean a lot to people up here, but he was a bit of a star for New Zealand Rugby League. When he came into the Blues and then into the All Blacks, he was an outstanding professional and very, very good player. But the subtleties that are different, particularly around the breakdown, you get tackled in league, you get up, you play the ball, and away you go. There's not someone charging over the top of you or trying to rip the ball off you. And so, adjusting to those elements of the game, it does take a little bit of time.
Talk to us about Ireland. How much conversation have you had with Andy Farrell this week?
None this week as yet. No, I met him for coffee in May. My son was up and got married in France in May, so I was up here for that, and caught up with a few guys really. Had a coffee with Johnny and then Faz and a few of the other guys. I'll catch up with a few next week when the pressure's off a bit, and and I've got a bit more time on my hands. It's a very busy week this week, but yeah, I might still catch up with Faz before the game, just because, you know, when you know someone well, you don't just have to talk about rugby, and you're hardly going to tell each other your tactics or anything, you know. You might discuss generics around the game, but I think he's a great choice for Lions coach. I think he'll do a great job, and I'm hoping that next July it can be a real celebration of the game.
You talked about tactics there. Working here at Ireland, and have we got a Joe Schmidt master plan? What's up your sleeve? What's up your sleeve this time? We saw in the World Cup. We saw that try from Will Jordan through them. That was, you know, the four-man line out. What can we say again?
I can't take responsibility for that. It's if you've got Richie Mo'unga and Will Jordan, that's a good starting place. But yeah, I just think we've tried to make it more about us on this tour and trying to just build the skill sets and understandings, and so, you know, we probably haven't got a specific plan for Ireland so much as an opportunity for growth for us, and that's just been the starting place, because we were just hoping to be able to get the players, I suppose, excited again about playing at this level, and the combinations, getting some cohesion and building some trust in the group, because some of that had been eroded with the poor kind of results they'd had the year before.
Sam Prendergast will start a second game for Ireland at 10. Will you get your forwards over the gain line, or try to, and run down his channel?
We'll certainly try to get our forwards over the gain line. I don't think there's any particular channel. I think, you know, most teams try to vary the point of attack. We don't want to just start going down a narrow channel and be funneled into a defensive corridor that doesn't go anywhere. So I think you've got to try to be a little bit more, or a little less predictable than that, and a little more inventive. So we'll probably try to shift the point of attack. If someone is running down that channel, it looked like Sam Prendergast is well able to look after himself, made a couple of good tackles against the Fijians, and if you can do that, there's some big, strong men in their Fijian team. I think he looked very able defensively. So it wouldn't be part of a plan per se. Whether it happens because someone's come around the corner or someone's striking a line, I'm sure he can handle himself.
What would it mean for you to beat Ireland on Saturday, and also to get Australia ready for the Lions for that first test in Brisbane in July?
Yeah, I know we judge on results, but for me it's just about getting the performance we need to keep growing the game and keep growing the confidence, so that also the people back in Australia can see that, hey, the team is still on the right path. And after the season where they came home early from the World Cup, so they were back in training in November last year, and we've been going through the Super Rugby, then straight into the July series, then into TRC, then on tour. I'm just hoping they've got one more decent effort in them, because inevitably at this time of the year you start to get a bit of fatigue, and you start to look at 27 degrees in Brisbane, and you don't want to get lost in that.
Joe Schmidt, it's been a pleasure, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.